Hi, this is the Environmental Management Commission meeting for November 27th, 2024, our last meeting of the year. And we have quorum, and so we're going to start. We also have a visit from Mayor Mitch Roth, and thank you very much for stopping by. I understand you've got another meeting right now, so
Well, I got a little bit of time. I just want to thank you guys very much for all the work that you've done in this, through this commission. I know that there's been a lot of work that's been done in the last 4 years in environmental areas. We're meeting today, hopefully finalize a agreement on what we do in Kalakahi. So we're very close to that. We're about to sign a agreement for the Hilo wastewater. So all those things are kind of hitting at the same time. We also have, you guys know, the AOC on Bahala and actually pretty much the whole island. So we probably in this administration have committed more money to this area than, well, we have committed more to this area than any other area, and probably made the biggest financial commitments. We recently, I don't know, Peter, maybe talking about the solid waste, just blessed some new machinery compactors that will hopefully extend the life of the landfill in West Hawaii. And there's some other things that, unfortunately weren't able to complete at this time, but some of the things that we're looking at for the future that should be popping up is some RFPs coming out, which may use or wastewater, may also use some of the landfill equipment and also deal with recycling. But you guys have played an instrumental role throughout this whole part, and I just wanted to come down and personally thank you for everything that you guys have done. And I think our island is better because of the input we got from this group. So
thank you. Well, I certainly want to, on my own behalf and for the chair, the support you've given to DEM has been fabulous. And I think you guys, with Ramsey, wherever he is, have laid a foundation for the island to really be able to move forward much more quickly than we ever have before. Good operational procedures being set up, a roadmap, as many roadmaps as Ramsey has talked about, which are going to be critical, and the people who are following on are going to benefit from, and they really won't know all the work that's been done, and at the speed that it's been done has been incredible as well. And during my time on the commission, so I want to really thank you and wish you the best.
Yeah, it's not sexy stuff. Nobody really gets excited. Politicians build, looking to wastewater and stuff like that, but it's stuff that really does make an impact on our island. And I think in the next 4 years, the next administration has about $400, $500, $600 million on these kinds of projects that is going to be looming. But we have timelines and everything else set up to make sure it does happen.
Yeah.
So, but you guys have played a part of that, so thank you. Again, that's why I just want to come down and thank you all for the work and the consideration. It does make a difference, and you guys have made a difference. So,
well, thank you.
Chair, yeah, thank you, Mayor, for all the, especially for all the hard work behind the scenes that we know always happens and goes on, that is unseen and often unthanked. So hallelujah for your work.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to sneak out of here. Thank you again for all you're doing, and good luck in the future.
Aloha.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope.
Okay, what I think I'll do now is just go through and let everybody raise their hand. Do we have many on Zoom or the phone listening? Or is it all the same old people? Okay. First off, District 1, we have Jim Beats. District 2, Laura Casio. 3, District 3 is Della Otsuka at the end there. Erica Perez for District 4. We have a vacancy for District 5, and hopefully there's some talking going on to encourage someone to join the commission. District 6, Lee McIntosh, who is terming out this year after 5 years? Out of 5 years on the commission. Unfortunately, out with medical issues today is Gonzalo Garcia, but he's been a wonderful addition this year to the commission. And District 8, Dot Norris, thank you, Dot. And I am District 9, and I too am terming out this year, although I think I may be back again for January's meeting at least. So I guess I already sort of officially called the meeting to order before Mayor Roth talked. So move right into the meeting agenda. Approval for the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. One is for the executive meeting we held, which is not going into the public record. It was recorded and we do have minutes. So if I could get a motion to accept those.
I move to accept.
I'll second.
Got that, Peter? Any discussion, corrections? Hearing, seeing none. The next set of minutes was from our last meeting. Again, which I'm blanking on what day this was. October 30th. Again, a motion to accept those.
I move to accept.
I'll second.
Thanks again, guys. Any corrections or comments on the minutes? I'll take this opportunity. Oh, so we need to vote. Has everybody approved the 2 sets of minutes? I forgot to vote the first set.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Approved both sets of minutes, and thank you very much. And throughout this, we're also going to be saying goodbye to Peter Sir, who has dealt with these monstrous long meeting minutes and done a yeoman's job, and I very, very much appreciate it. It's, even though there's a transcript, it's an AI transcript. It's kind of, what? I didn't say that, did I? No, we didn't. So again, thank you very much, Peter, for your assistance on those minutes. Again, I guess it's statement from the chair. Oh, and then you had it last thing. Anyway, been busy. We've been writing lots of things, trying to review. I'm trying on this meeting to set us up for, all right, going forward. Next year, what do you guys want to work on? What are the policy issues we may want to encourage the new administration, whoever that may be, to support? So that'll be most of our discussion. And I guess I'll save my valedictorian, is that what you called it, Peter? Comments for the end. And move on to requests for public statements, whether at this time or as we bring up the specific agenda item. We received no written comments, correct? So is anybody on Zoom? We have no visitors in the room. Steve, did you want to?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me.
very loudly. We need to figure out how to turn this down a tad.
Okay.
Okay,
Anyway, I just wanted to thank you all for your service as a commission. And I talked to Ramsey earlier today and heard that he was leaving. And I hope that the new mayor and the commission can play a big role in this, understands the need to proceed on all of the legal actions, the AOCs, the litigation in federal court on Kealakehe, and not drop the ball, kick the can down the road, continue that kind of practice. We've made great headway. We need to keep that moving. And I just urge all of the commissioners that are going to be sticking around to keep the heat on, make that happen. Thank you for your time.
thank you, Steve. Yeah, I mean, I really meant it when I said to the mayor that there's fabulous foundation with a hammer behind it, although that hammer may have some foam put around it by the federal administration to come, but it's still going to be there. We're going to have that AOC, set of AOCs that will drive us, and the structures to make those happen have been established within DEM, and I think we'll see some tremendous difference. I'll quit making statements of the chair and go back and make sure there aren't any other public comments. If, as we hit up a agenda item, somebody would like to make a public comment, please indicate that in the chat so that, or raise your hand so that we can address that. Moving then to unfinished business. Our first item is continuing to look at the wastewater division's draft bill. And it's quite a lot to swallow. But I wanted to make sure that people had a chance to look at it if you've got some comments to make. And in particular, if DEM has some input that would like to still get from EMC to let us know. Were you going to do any summarizing work, Ramsey? Is Chris on? Before we dive into discussion?
No, I guess if Chris have something, but I just want to ditto the mayor and Steve as well, and you, Georgianne. It's been great 4 years. It wasn't easy 4 years. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I think once I got into it, failure was not an option. And I think given the staff shortage and the challenges here on the island, I'm hoping our current staff continue pushing projects. We have accomplished so much more than anybody else in the state could have accomplished in the short time we were given. A HELO plan was put out twice, a huge project. Valhalla's under construction as we speak, the collection system. A lot of fund has been allocated, 10-year forecast, financial forecast being made. And so it's a matter of just keeping the eyes on the ball, make sure every fiscal year we implement the projects that has been identified. And kudos to my staff, Chris, Mark, Kelly. They carried the ball and run with it, and I really appreciate their service. Peter has done a great job, as you all know, Peter. And my deputy director, Brenda, she was the bone for the department this last 4 years. So it was, a great accomplishment, and we're gonna share with you the written accomplishment and the challenges forward, so you guys could keep an eye and keep moving that forward, so we don't get into a consent decree. Let's stay away from consent decree. because it gets very, very expensive. And we cannot afford kicking the can down the road anymore. Look at Hilo. It came at $334 million. $60 million could have prevented it had we been putting $2 million a year for maintenance. So we cannot defer maintenance anymore. It costs taxpayers, it costs us a lot of money. So it's a great opportunity. We got a great team. Hopefully Chris, Mark, and Kelly continue with the movement forward. And I appreciate each one of you guys.
Thank you very much, Ramsey. We too, like I said, you've gone amazingly fast in establishing the groundwork for all of the wastewater and solid waste. I won't give you too much of a pat on the back, but yeah, some things.
I forgot to mention the solid waste. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
We're
said
driving
that.
into the wastewater. Now you reminded me. We got Craig, Mike Kaha, and Gene. They were amazing. Timmy, Tony, Pacheco. I mean, these guys really. I remember the first day I sat down in the mayor's office, we got a message of transfer closures. He said, "How could we close a business?" It was during the holidays, about this time of the year. I'm glad to tell you that we minimized, eliminated these sudden landfill closures and transfer station. I think you guys, if you recall, Kona transfer station was kind of every holiday were close to 3-4 days or so. So we restructured that and we just purchased a huge amount of equipment. We went back to start equipment inventory. We replaced all the equipment that from 1990 all the way to 2000. So we set a schedule to every year to replace them. And like what the mayor said, we just received the Beast, which is a Cat 826 that allows for better compaction. They never had it in the county's history. They were compacting landfill with a small compactor that did not allow for better density. So we fought for it for 2.5 years. Finally, we got it. We got it just last week. So it's amazing accomplishment to the solid waste group, Craig and Mike Kaha and Gene running these division and sections.
No, yeah, I'm gonna put you guys down as the king of O&M. Doing really good job. Finally. So back to the agenda. Chris, if you had some issues wanted to highlight.
Yeah, so I just want to, kind of update the commissioners on some things. So with respect to our code, there's some elements of our code. Yes, we are really focused within our code on pre-treatment. The pre-treatment portions of our code are federally required. We don't necessarily have a lot of wiggle room in terms of the federal requirements are the federal requirements. And so a lot of the language in our code is federally required. At this point in time, we're going through the Hilo wastewater treatment plant NPDES permit renewal. So this process involves a public comment period. And then it also, after the public comment period, the DOH considers comments and then issues the county a new 5-year permit. So currently in our NPDES permit for Hilo, our public comment period will begin on December 19th. So just want to provide you guys some updates. The other thing that's interesting about this NPDES permit is this NPDES permit will require a FOG program. So, DOH wanted it implemented within 3 months of our permit issuance, but luckily we've been able to negotiate with DOH for 1 calendar year. So that's the justification for the additional FOG requirements in our current code. So as you read the code, we need to keep in mind that, you know, the fog is going to impact local businesses. Um, you know, but it is required as part of our NPS permit. And for us as a utility, it has huge monumental benefits because currently what's been happening is the county's been bearing the cost of repairing lines damaged with grease from businesses. And so, you know, we just really have to, you know, this will hopefully decrease those costs so we can buy, you know, pumps and things to keep our facilities in good repair rather than repairing clogged pipes because a private plumber pushed the clog into the county's line and called us to fix it. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. On the fog component. So what that looks like, I think honestly, in terms of our community, I think the pre-treatment requirements will apply to businesses as well, but not as many as the fog requirements. So I think as we look forward, you know, we could see some potential appeals to the board and things for you know, the requirements that our next administrative team will require. But the proposed strategy at this time for fog, just so that the commissioners kind of understand what the division is thinking is, you know, we're going to provide some descriptive BMPs within our code, which you guys can see we have, you know, prescriptive BMPs identified. And then my environmental compliance staff will be, you know, beating down the streets and providing education, handouts, trying to educate folks. And then if we find that certain required pieces of equipment like grease traps or grease interceptors are not properly maintained or broken, you know, we're going to request that those be repaired. You know, and that's where I think we could see some appeals because, you know, again, it takes, you know, funding, available funds to finance those repairs. And so anyway, so that's one component of our code, but I feel that we're justified in those requirements. We're not trying to be overly onerous because it is an NPDES permit condition. Additionally, it's been an operational problem that we've been challenged with for years. And when I talk with our operations staff and I sat down with our operations staff and I said, okay, guys, what is your vision? What would be of the greatest benefit, you know, to you guys as operators and sewer collection system maintenance staff from our pre-treatment code changes? I threw it out there. I was curious to see what they would say. And the number one thing was fog. You know, people dump grease down our pipes. It's a maintenance challenge. It's nasty. It clogs pipes. It causes call outs. And so and really it's something that we need to you know, work on reducing the amount of fog in our system.
So if I could, but you're gonna focus on Hilo area,
No,
but it's the
it'll
whole
be-
island that's
it's the
subject
whole
to it.
island, yeah. Because, you know, as part of our by January 2nd, we are going to be applying for an NPDES permit at Kealikehe wastewater treatment plant. So I would say that likely we're going to see those same permit conditions in our responses from DOH. So I think it's time to get ahead and be proactive. And I also feel that, you know, the requirement should apply to all collection systems. So I see some hands in the back.
Oh, sorry.
I have a
Erica.
simple question. Thank you so much. You mentioned that the public comment period would open up December 19th. When is the closing? How long will that be open?
So it's a 30-day period. So it'll close 30 days. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know exactly off the top.
That's helpful, just even the 30 days. And then do we, how is that communicated with the public and shared?
It'll go out through the Hawaii, the Tribune, the newspaper. And then there will be copy of the permit available at each of our Kona and Hilo offices. And then quite honestly, I mean, we can release a copy to EMC. I mean, you guys, if that would be
Yes, please.
Super helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
sure.
How, you know, in lieu of all this stuff that's happening with NPDES in the state and the review and kind of reviewing injection wells, how does this play in? How do those two things happen at the same time? Will it have to go through another review or another type of application process once NPDES is kind of figured out a little bit more? Is there any ideas about that?
Yeah, good question. So in terms of our NPDES program, so for wastewater treatment plant facilities, at this time, DOH uses individual NPDES permits. Now that the state is, looking at injection wells differently because of the, Maui decision, the state is currently evaluating alternatives, whether to identify, those types of facilities within a general permit or individual permits. But at this point in time, the guidance that we have, the facilities that are injection well that the county operates, we're moving ahead, within the guidance provided by DOH, which is that, they're renewing our injection permits. We're getting additional testing requirements, additional monitoring requirements, and the county is just, adapting to that, and waiting for further guidance. So but I do know that DOH is looking at it from a perspective of a individual permits as well as general permits. They're kind of, they haven't made a complete decision. So for us, we have facilities that have individual permits. So the Hilo permit is an individual site-specific permit. And then, the public does have an opportunity to comment on those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jim Beats,
Chris, so on the topic of injection wells, which facility presently has injection wells?
So our facilities that have injection wells, we have the Uluvini, the package treatment plant. Okay, that has injection wells. And then we also have our Honaka'a facility as well.
And what was the first one I didn't hear?
Okay.
That would be our Koloko,
Uluvini.
Loco.
Uluvini.
Local.
So,
Okay.
the interesting thing about Uluvini
At 4.
is we do have, sorry.
Can you list those again?
Sure.
I only heard two.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the two that we have, Honaka'a
Okay.
and
Okay.
Koloko.
Koloko. Yeah.
And then all of the others
Ye-
are like offshore inject or what?
Why
So-
do
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a few others. So DOH's current permitting strategy is they have facilities that are smaller facilities in terms of volume, or they don't necessarily have an ocean outfall, or they do subsurface disposal. They have them comply with certain state laws, and they're colloquially called 1162 facilities. So we have a couple of 1162 facilities. Our most notable is Kealakahe wastewater treatment plant. And then also we have a smaller facility called Kapehu that operates that way as well. Then we also have, for other facilities that have NPDES permits, individual permits, we have Kuleimano, we have Papaico, and then we have Hilo, and soon we'll have Kealikehe covered in an NPDES permit.
So can I repeat what I just heard? Because I really want to understand this. That was an excellent question. So are you saying, what I heard is that the two that currently, so two definitely have NPDES for injection wells right now. And then there's another category of 1162 that's a smaller.
Yeah, so you have your 1162 facilities, which are smaller facilities, usually with some sort of, subsurface disposal. And that currently is Kealikehe and Kapehu. Then you have facilities that have injection wells, have UIC permits, and they also need to meet the requirements of 1162 as well. Okay, and that is Koloko or Uluvini. So Koloko is Uluvini, or you have Honeka'a wastewater treatment plant. Then our NPDES facilities are Papaico, Kuleimano, and Hilo. So we have 3 NPDES facilities, 2 UIC facilities, and then we have 2, let's say, 1162 type facilities.
Would it be, because I know you folks are just so busy right now, so I don't want to add, but I would love to see that written down. Just so I can comprehend it and maybe do a little digging into what these are. I think a focus that I would like to talk about in a little bit further down the road in this meeting is about reuse and the back end of wastewater. And so I would love to know what currently is doing, like what's happening with the systems. This is super valuable information, but if there's a concise way of putting it on paper, that would be awesome. I just want to see it.
But yeah, again,
I
it's hard to
visually wanna
visualize
see
and
it.
make
It's
sure.
hard,
what's
it's
going.
hard
Yeah.
to.
I agree
read
with
it.
that, but if it
It's
will be in the
hard.
minutes, I will pull those out and send them around, because this is the first time that I've ever heard clarity on this topic.
Thanks.
But I've only been here a year, so.
Yeah, super helpful, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, and we have some documents that we can provide that'll provide probably more clarity in this area than you guys have ever wanted. Because
Bring it on.
Yeah, that would be helpful for me, so.
Very.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Very.
just so the team kind of can understand, so each of these different things have different requirements. And
Correct. Yeah.
every NPDES permit is unique to the facility. So for example, the new Hilo NPDES permit requires us to sample specific, contaminants and at a certain frequency. So that may be totally different than Kuleimano's or Papaico's. So for us, we look at it from a perspective of operations and capacity and equipment and different things. And so, we have some charts and tables that we, and then UIC is totally different than NPDES. There's different requirements, different reporting, a different section of clean water branch that enforces the permit. And so, it all goes into the umbrella of, regulatory compliance and how do we, and really, regulatory compliance is driven by what is best for the community, right? So we just try to make sure that we understand, what we need to do operationally to meet these different permits.
Georgine, just a
Jim.
quick question.
Go ahead.
And Chris, so my understanding is the UIC permit is only a state permit. Is any part of that national?
Well, the underground injection control, yeah, it is a state administered permit, but I believe there is a portion of the EPA that does regulate that program nationally, just like with the MPDS permit program.
But do the applications get reviewed like the NEPD's permits do? Because those reviewed.
So injection control, I believe they do go out for a public comment period.
Or I was talking about federal review.
Oh, federal review.
Because NEPD's permits do.
Yeah, so you do have a coordinator that does kind of look at everything. But that honestly, Jim, that's a good question. Off the top of my head, I don't know who at a federal level would review that.
Okay.
It's probably one where EPA has guidelines,
Yeah.
enforcement guidelines.
That's what used to work with the
I love
person that did that.
Yeah,
But it was a different time.
Yeah, usually in these situations, EPA will give the authority to the Department of Health, so they don't do the review because they have granted authority to DOH to do whatever they need to do under these guidance.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay, I'll let you get back on track, Chris, if you remember where you were.
Oh yeah. So as far as with the code, the next big thing with the code is, we have our overall integrated wastewater planning efforts, right? So as part of the code, some changes that that are being proposed is connection within our service areas. So service areas are not yet defined and still being as we saw from the presentation with Carollo being collaboratively developed. And so with that being said, that as part of the countywide AOC requirements, we do have requirements that if you're within that service area, if you have a cesspool, you need to be connected to sewer. And so and also as part of our utility in growing that customer base, right, we should have collection system expansion. We should be bringing industrial dischargers, different dischargers into that system, so that it can be treated and later discharged. So there are requirements for users to connect within that code. I think a lot of the there are some changes in terms of standards and collector line sizes and various things, which we thought prudent, so that there's no question of what a developer should install with respect to our overall plan. So, from a 10,000 foot view, I think those are, the main areas that we are, say adding to our current, code, because previously the pretreatment language that, is usually within our code, is very minimal. And, we're going to be proposing those changes. So, as far as guidance from EMC, again, we just look to have you guys review the code from a standpoint of, implementation, also challenges that, that you see that we may need to address, or areas that we need to clarify, maybe, um, this is what we do, right? It's our primary focus, sometimes it's perfectly clear to us, but maybe it's confusing to others. So, but anyway, that's what, as far as getting feedback and consultation with you guys.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. One of the things that I've been trying to figure out by reading through it is the fees and who's paying what fees. And there has been some talk, and I assume people have seen the articles in the paper about Oahu and how they've jumped their fees in a proposal to split into two. And just how are we looking, or you guys are looking at establishing the fees for the industrial base? I think it's a little bit more straightforward. And if you guys wanted to look at page 51, section 21.11.11 is where they kind of list out the fee schedules. But if there's some philosophy that's driving what kind of fees do you want to get, which are the flat fees, which are the just base, we've got to support our maintenance program fees versus the supporting growing out the sewer service area connections. If you've got a way to simplify that, if you don't, figure out a way to simplify that, because it's a slog to work through reading the different requirements here.
Oh, understood. I've got that noted, and it'll go into our log.
Laura,
On that same note, can you explain gang cesspools in the relationship to the fees?
So as far as gang cesspools, so currently gang cesspools, if you're connected to a gang cesspool, the fee is about half of if you were connected to our standard collection system. So, county operated cesspool, a good example is Naalehu and Pahala. Those folks, they're connected to those cesspools that we are working to close. And so, I guess that in the previous rate study that was done, it was identified that, their fees would be different than the folks connected to, the wastewater treatment plant. I guess my assumption would be that they're less expensive because the treatment plants are generally a little bit more expensive to operate than a gang cesspool. But
I guess my confusion was, I guess, thinking the larger gang cesspools like Pahala and Naalehu, as opposed to like ones that have 3 houses and aren't connected to a county facility gang cesspool. So the definition, I didn't know if the definition was clear. So, okay, that's good. That answers my question.
Yeah, so that would be for county owned. If it's a private cesspool, that wouldn't apply.
Got it.
Just to let you know, as well, any gang cesspool fall under EPA rules, not Department of Health. Even if it's a residential, if they got a gang cesspool, they're supposed to convert, but way back in 2005. So any gang cesspool fall under the federal mandate. Just kind of
that's why I was confused, because I knew that was already, but now I understand we're talking about Naalehu, Pahala.
We're Naalehu and Pahala gang county managed gang cesspools prior to their decree, their AOC.
Yes.
Yes.
It's always
Yeah.
been.
Yes. They have
Yeah.
been managed prior. They were given notification to convert way.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
about 2
I,
years ago, yeah.
exactly, okay, got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Norris.
Hi, yeah, can I ask the people who are in the Hilo office actually say their name before they ask the question so I can, you are too small to see who's talking. I have a couple of questions and will septic tank users as well be required to connect to a sewer line? And also, will the NPDS and other permits be allowed to be reviewed by the public or this commission? Are they online?
So at this point in time, the MPS permit is not posted online. I can, speak within our office and see if we can get a link on our website to that. I will release it. Yeah, I can give a copy to put into the meeting minutes or give a copy to Georgine so that the commission can have it and review it. To answer your question about this, will the septic tanks be required to connect? Honestly, I think that is an issue that I would seek guidance from the EMC on. This, I mean, ideally in a perfect world, I'd love everybody to just connect, but I realize that we don't have unlimited resources. And I would look for guidance in terms of what we think is a reasonable expectation to set for our community for those within those areas. I know there's a couple different models. Some places they look at the design life left, the remaining design life on your septic system, and they say, hey, if your septic system isn't 20 years old, then you can wait till it's 20 years old, but then the day after it's 20 years old, you connect. Other people, they just go out, they say, nope, connect today. The sewer's here, connect. Other folks, they have a different time frame and you pay the sewer fee. So the sewer is at your, in front of your house, you pay the sewer fee, but you're not required to connect for a certain period of time. So I think it's a question of, what do we think is good for our community? And I would solicit feedback from EMC on that issue.
Thank you.
Erica.
Just to give you guys heads up, our consultant did a presentation for you guys last meeting, and we talked about the 3 spheres of influence. And the sphere number 1, which is within the sewer service area, that's the sphere that Chris is talking about, where it's within the AOC and everybody must connect. And the way that connection is going to take place based on certain priorities that the code and the department is set forward. And I think the consultant kind of shared it with you last meeting. So sphere 1 will be based on the current capacity of the plan. And then they go out and figure out how we're going to get to that capacity and how many businesses, facilities, homes going to be connected to that facility within sphere 1. So priority will be given to affordable housing, state departments like DHHL. Then we need to target commercial industrials. We talked about Costco. We talked about Home Depot. There's no reason for them to stay on septic. So they have to connect, because the higher, industrial, commercial, we consider them, it's probably higher pollutant than a house. So, and that's how the capacity is going to be managed. So this is part of the plan and the roadmap. And I hope Chris and staff, they keep an eye on that. And that's how they continue managing that capacity and assign it to the most pollutant entities. And then we come to house residential cesspools. And we need to capture as much cesspools as we can within that sphere number one. If we have capacity, then the septic conversion come in place. So they may stay on septic because we may not have enough capacity within the plan. So it depends how it's managed down the road, but that's the intent and the vision that we laid forward. So to make sure that all capacity is being utilized based on certain criteria, which is number one, it's health and safety and high pollutant areas.
Can I,
Erica, you had a question.
yeah, these are great questions. Thank you. That really helped get clarity around that. Can you remind me, Ramsey, if there was also a level of, because the spheres, they do make sense in capturing that capacity. Is there also something that calls out the need to maybe prioritize low line or septics that are currently impacted by sea level rise in shoreline management areas, and including them as a higher priority than houses that are up Malca that may not be directly impacted by that sea level rise, that would then have that environmental impact more directly and quickly as we continue through, the advancement of climate change and the impacts.
No, it's a great question, Erica. And yes, because anything within the shoreline, we consider it high pollutant because it's just going to go straight to the water. So it doesn't matter commercial, house. So that's why we kind of ranked it based, the degree of pollution and how far they are, and the degree of how fast they get to the ocean as well. So if you have an entity right on the shore, and as you guys seen it on the west side, when the university did a dive study, it took no time for it to make it to the shoreline. So yeah, these all are part of the prioritization of who gets the capacity first.
Do you see that being part of this bill or part of the department's administrative rules, or strictly an internal policy on how you're going to prioritize the people who have to connect?
Yeah, as our integrated waste management plan is complete with the cesspool conversion master plan, and our intent to have a TMK number or address that any of our constituents could enter into the computer to look at their options. So, and then that is going to be changed in the code and the admin rule as well.
Okay, but for right now, what you're setting up is, I'm looking at the definition of sewer service area, which is on page 11, which says means a geographic area determined by the director within which all parcels are planned to be connected to POTW. So that's just talking about an area rather than a set of priorities within that area that you're going to go after. So it won't be all, it'll be your prioritized by different criteria, as you were talking about, things. So I'm just trying to figure out, what's the scope? What are the requirements? If somebody's reading this, are they going to freak out because they're in the service area? You say, well, wait a minute, not necessarily. We've got all the exemptions. Are those going to appear in rules? Are they going to be your call or the DEM director's call, which will then be challenged and brought to this commission for appeal? So be prepared, guys. And if we could lay out, these are the criteria that would be looked at, and get that publicly accepted ahead of time, that'll make life a little bit easier. Still tough, but a little easier and more forward, so that people aren't going to panic. So I guess it's going to be, stepwise on issuing the requirements. You've got all these balls in the air. You need to be able to catch at some point. I just wanted to make sure we're teeing it up, knowing what's going to be required before it all goes final. We're still in proposal. We're not even an official proposal. This is a working draft. So think about what would you like to see in this version of the draft? And it may be just setting it up like they've set up the fact that we could move to an enterprise fund. They're not doing it here. They're just making the opportunity to convert to an enterprise fund by laying the language in here. And I think there's a lot of devilish details that are going to have to be worked out by rule and by policy that's published and run through the public ringer.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the idea is to make sure that even if vacant lands that is within sphere number 1, which is sewer service area, they need to know that if they go through the planning department and subdivision, they have to connect. They have to put the sewer infrastructure. So anything within that sphere of influence should connect. I know we're working on the code and the plans in parallel because, but we kind of have the vision. We understand where we're taking it. So as the code is being written, yes, definitely that hopefully Chris and Kelly and staff will make sure, that vision is being written down as part of the code. And it's going to also be based on first come, first serve, right? So if you got a immediate area that is being creating pollution, so hopefully, and they got a accessible to sewer, so our department could issue a 180-day notice to connect, and we need the enforcement as well. So they all go hand in hand, where the department could issue a warning to the people that accessible to sewer to connect within 180 days. And we need to make sure the enforcement and the code is very clear, so we could hold people accountable to connect in a reasonable time.
Ramsey, I'm sorry,
Erica first, then Jim.
you were writing, I
Okay.
apologize.
No, go ahead.
This is Erica. How do you, so recognizing what you just said is that your team has this vision, and your remarks and your answers are always so insightful for the vision that you're laying out with all of these plans and how they're going to work and integrate together. Recognizing that we're in a shift and a moment of transition, how are these visions and this plan going to be passed down to a new to new staff and new administration in making sure that it is carried out? Will there be document of like, what does that transition look like in such a critical time for our county as everything is in this development phase?
That's a great question, and let's put it to test and ask Kelly, because I've been working with Kelly since day one on this, and hopefully I'm depending on Kelly, Chris, to lead that. So let's give them a test and see how they're gonna carry on the vision.
Sure. So we've gone over what our procedure is going to be to get the integrated wastewater master plan and the rate study improved through the administration with Ramsey. So we do have a roadmap for that. And this ties into one of Georgine's previous questions. So we're going to have the delineated sewer service area. And then within that service area, we're going to come up with project priorities. And before the plan goes public, we're going to sit down with the mayor and the finance department to make sure we can commit to the priorities that are going to be on the page before they go public. And then our public review period is going to start, which will start with the EMC, and then committee, and then public. And then so you can review and make sure everything makes sense. And then upon final presentation, once the plan is finalized, the department's going to need to present what policies and procedures need to be changed. So any policies and procedures that are not written in the pre-treatment ordinance draft, we'll get a temperature check from council to see what everybody's willing to support, and then we'll work on the bills with our corp council. So I think that's the summary for what our game plan is in regards to procedure.
And Erica, in addition to that, I think that's where you guys come into play. You know, pretty much my vision and the roadmap that I kind of conveyed to staff and to the consultant. Hopefully you guys stay on to make sure to hold the new administration also accountable to the same mission and vision, because that's the only way we're going to provide environmental protection to our constituents and start converting from these awful cesspools into a sewer connection. So, and definitely there's a lot to do work to be done, but hopefully you guys will keep the eye on that, because it's very, very important. You know, like I said, when I first started, the vision is to create the foundation and the roadmap so the planning department could use it, we could use it, developers will be kind of, you know, forced to put infrastructure, because we cannot keep doing subdivisions without infrastructure, because we're gonna all pay for it.
Yep.
And we've seen it, as our consultant had presented to you guys last time, the Sphere 2 and 3. Sphere 2 and 3 outside the capacity, and it gets so expensive just to bring the infrastructure into it. So I hope you all, you know, keep in mind that presentation we did with the consultant. Keep working with Kelly and Chris. Like I said, I have no control of who's going to take my place, but you guys are the committee that probably going to keep track and continuity to that vision.
We have some vacancies on the commission, Ramsey.
Yeah, I thank you, Erica.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can we nominate?
Yeah. You could talk to the mayor and see if he can. Jim, you had
I did, and this is just a follow up to what you asked, Georgine. So it's Jim Beats, District 1. And where are spheres going to be described, defined? I think that was, you know, a question, but I didn't hear an answer. And if it's not defined at this point, Ramsey, where would you foresee that being?
Yeah, my vision is these will be all defined within the code and admin role as a reference. Because once we create the IWWMP, which is the Integrated Wastewater Management Plan, we're going to take it before County Council and we're going to get it approved, like what we did with the Integrated Waste Management Solid Plan, if you remember. So our goal is, once we get this approved by County Council, become part of the code and the admin role as by reference. So if you're a developer and you're willing to come and you got, you know, 40 acres within that sphere number 1 or sphere number 2 or sphere number 3, then you could access these maps through the code itself by reference. And hopefully the staff will have it within our website. We have hired, you know, Christy, who she oversees our website for wastewater and solid waste, and hopefully that will become all part of the information online, so developers doesn't have to go through major search and research to find stuff. They could go in and say, okay, this is sphere number 1. I got 40 acres. I know I need to connect. I call Chris or Kelly and said, you know, how could I go about this? Planning department will be aware of it, so they don't commit to any septic tanks to these developers, even though if they 49 acres or 49 lots or less. So that's the structure is gonna be there, Jim. So the idea is the vision is to make sure that we are able to connect everybody within sphere number one, and capture the capacity that we need to capture. And increase our revenue as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you, Ramsey.
Great questions.
I have a question. No.
No, it's other questions too.
Thank you, Dot Bell from District 3. On the roadmap, Kelly, is it possible, and I think we've asked it before, to have an overview of your roadmap prior, as you're working on it, so that we can look at it, have a general idea as to what's on it, and we can better participate and do some research, so when we do come together, we have more information on what you're working on, so we can better help you with your roadmap.
Sure. Yep, we can do that. And just so you're aware, we did add giving you guys a month's notice before any documents will come to y'all.
God, so helpful.
That's very helpful.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, interjection, but
But as
super helpful.
to that, thank you. So before each item that you're gonna present to us a month in advance, is it like an overview of your whole roadmap? And as you enter into those different projects, you let us know 30 days in advance, so we can look at that specific thing to the big roadmap.
Yeah, we can certainly, this will be something I would ask if you would add it to the agenda. And we can make that happen in the transition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also encourage you, because we have such fabulous minutes, go back and look at what Corolla said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So one of the questions Chris had asked before of us is relative to fees. Do we have an opinion on whether or not they should have, how to structure those fees? Is there just a flat, everybody on this island, this is my bias, everybody on this island needs to contribute, not just through a property tax, but a dedicated amount of money to having the best opportunity for wastewater treatment by supporting our sewer system, county sewer system? It's just a flat fee, green fee, call it whatever you want to call it, as opposed to just hitting up the people who happen to be connected or who happen to get a water bill or, are in sphere one, and part one of sphere one, in terms of priorities. Do we want some kind of a base fee, which I think was the way Oahu is taking it, and then a second level fee that's directed more to usage, typical usage. So the average home is this, a home that's got 5-10 bedrooms in it gets a bigger fee because they've got more use. Certainly from an industrial standpoint, the fees are laid out by water usage, and they monitor the water usage and the discharge so that they can track that. So a two-part fee. And how broad should that bottom support for operations and maintenance fee be, and the usage fee that goes to a much smaller set of people, or any other option that you guys would recommend? I don't know that we're prepared at today's meeting to say this is what you ought to do, but do you guys have some thoughts?
So there was an investigation done for Puako looking at specific cesspool conversions, and within that, to make it equitable amongst homes and recognizing the diversity of homes that are in the area, the model looked at rooms. the model looked at the number of rooms and went in and based fees off of connection to, and it was a different situation really, because it was a private utility, but it did use that model of rooms and connection based off of that. I think that would maybe just, I'm not saying that that's what I'm recommending by any means. I think that lens to look through this question is also trying to look at that equity component of recognizing the multiple challenges that we have in our county and our state of multi-generational homes, the equity that's needed for them to keep homes within families. And then even newer regulations like ohana dwellings that are being permitted. And so I think multiple kind of challenges to kind of filter through in asking that question. And how do you approach it from an equity lens also?
Right, that's certainly critical. I'm kind of coming from, I live on a expensive resort. Everybody on this island benefits from cleaner water being discharged to our oceans. Whether you're doing your bit to contribute to the pollution or not, everybody benefits as an island, as the whole county. So we ought to be willing to support that work, and beyond just through property tax. But Laura,
Just kind of adding on to that conversation, I think of things like a resort where the amount of flushes, for example, is going to be somehow related to, well, the fees, for example, that would go to a resort might be very different than something going to a single family residence, because it's a business, so they are making money, and then they could then pass that on as a green fee within some kind of distribution in their business model on a different scale than a residence. And then, but what was brought up when you were talking about basing it on per rooms, we have a situation right now before the county planning commission on the windward side of a development permit request for a 5-bedroom, 12-bathroom, 3 of them. So I think if we're talking about sewer and cesspool, we should not be doing it on bedroom, we should be doing it on bathroom, because that is a way to kind of obfuscate maybe, well, anyway, without getting into too much detail, it is really based on the flushes in the bathroom, and also perhaps then the infrastructure that would go along with other wastewater sources, like like all of the sinks, etc. So it's less based on bedroom and more based on bathroom. But
Dot's hands.
Just to keep in mind,
sorry.
just to keep in mind, stay away from relating the fees to sewer. The reason I'm recommending to staying away, because if you're gonna do it at countywide fees, 80% of the county is not connected, so you cannot charge them something related to a service they're not receiving. So, and you may get challenged, and I know it could become a legal issue, because I've seen it where people not getting services, they win the lawsuit because you're charging them for something they're not receiving, especially when it comes to a service. So it need to be kind of environmental type of service, green fee service, anything, but stay away from relating it to sewer, because if they're not connected to sewer, why they need to pay? That's the big question you need to ask yourself.
I have a clarification.
Laura has a clarification, then we'll get to Dot, okay?
Ramsey, can you clarify on that, just in the sense that there are folks that are currently being charged for a base fee for sewer that aren't connected, and I know that was part of when Walmart's agreement, when they put in infrastructure, the houses along that line, even if they're not on the county service line, they still are paying.
Yeah, if you have beneficial use and you have a sewer line coming in front of you, this is, you have to pay because you have the beneficial to connect. So that's where the enforcement need to come in. And most of these people, we issue a letter to them for 180 days to connect because they have the beneficial use of that sewer line coming in front of their property. Therefore, they should pay the fees. But if they opt not to connect, that's on them. But if you don't have any sewer accessibility, then it's hard to charge somebody.
Okay, that's the clarification. I understand.
Dot gets first because I've ignored her too long. I was looking the wrong way. Sorry. Dot, you had a question. No, I'll get you.
Just a sort of a comment on this too. In California, we had it directly linked to water usage, so that it also encourages people to conserve water as well as, lessening the burden on the sewer system. And I agree that that everybody should pay, whether we call it a green fee or a sewer fee. Doesn't matter to me. I think, like you said, everybody benefits, and therefore, the way I read the draft document there, that we were going to install sort of a combination of that, and that seems fair to me because there is, overuse of water on this island, and the sewer system probably would benefit with less water usage.
I mean, you bring in a good concept, but the concept that you bring in is, unfortunately, California has a lot of utility districts. So, and these utility districts oversees sewer and water at the same time. So they kind of like the Mojave Resident District and East Nye District, in California, they oversee water and sewer. So it's easy for them for efficiency to bill for both. Our system here, and plus California, most of them all connected to water and sewer. So when you have 80% of the county here not connected on septic or cesspool, but they have water, but they don't use sewer. Right. So it's hard for the water department and us to bill them because they're not connected. So, but the people that within the sewer service area that they connect, we tried to work with the Department of Water Services early on to make sure that at least the people that connected, could we put them on the same thing? But from an accounting point of view, it become a nightmare for them and us because, believe it or not, we're still doing manual billing. So, and that's one of the other challenge, but you do bring a good point. City and county are on the same bill because 98% of the city and county connected to sewer. So, and it's managed by the county itself and the Department of Water Supply as well. So, and they subtract the irrigation before they send the billing to the people. So they only account for the water being used within the house, not outside the house. And I think it's a good strategy, but we, unfortunately, we're not there for so many reasons. And I kind of agree when you do numbers as engineers, sometimes they use to site a facility, you use the estimated gallon per capita. That's for the design. But Laura, you're right. But when you have the infrastructure already exist, and when you have the facility exist, you go through the plumbing code, which is the number of fixtures you have. and it could be a shower, toilet, and that's how we do it to commercial and industrial, based on occupancy and number of fixtures each entity will have. You could do it as well per house, because technically the design standard tells you about 2.8 cabinet per house, so about 3 people within a house. But if you have more showers and laundry room and stuff, you could go and do it based on fixtures.
Dell, you had a question, comment?
No, thank you. So in light of the conversation regarding the cesspool hookups, and for what Laura had said, so given the Walmart situation where the pipes were laid for the purpose, I suppose, of having Walmart do the sewer, the Panama residents didn't have a say in that, but now they're forced to pay for something they had not, they had no say in, because it was built specifically for the development in Panama and not so much the residents. So, and that's my question. So if they shouldn't be billed for services they're not receiving. So if they're receiving the service because the Walmart complex and everything was built there, they really had no say. I don't know.
No, I mean, you're right. Usually we do charge, our current rate structure is kind of fixed for residential. But for commercial is we start with certain amount of gallon based on the water usage. And then we charge them, the fixed rate plus the number of gallon they use per water. So they definitely don't pay the same. That's for sure. And that's how the current code is. And our rate study consultant currently is working with Chris and the team on analyzing these and what we should charge or not charge and what have you. So hopefully you guys keep an eye on that. Should a report be coming to you guys that's still in the hopper and is being worked on?
Okay, I think, oh, Erica, one more question.
It's good, it's easy, and it's gonna be fast. Thank you so much. So Ramsey, you're recommending kind of staying away from the sewer fee language, and I hear that recommendation. If there were to be like a clean water based fee for all residents, who would enact that, or how would it be the DEM? Would it be a recommendation from DEM to county council? Like, what would that look like if a kind of broadcast clean water fee were to be proposed? Who would do that?
I think we went through that. I think when I first started, that was the first thing I sat down with the mayor, corporation council, and finance. The idea is, could we charge $20 a month? And let's call it, environmental assessment fees, or something that pertaining to protecting the environment, especially the Clean Water Act, because water is our major resource here on the island that we need to protect. And under the federal act, the Clean Water Act and the Drinking Safe Water Act is, environmentally, we need to make sure that we reduce pollutant and contaminant. So, and I think it's more of a legal question of how to set up these fees. What county could do to set up fees versus the state? And my understanding, usually the state comes back down to us and give us our portion, but it's more of corporation council pointing out to you guys the hierarchy of how that could be established, or you could, put it on the ballot maybe, and if everybody's willing to approve it, then it becomes the law, right? So if, that's one other way, faster way of doing it. Because once you put it on the ballot, then it's, the people are giving us the green light to go and do it. versus us trying to implement it and, going through the legal aspect of things. So, yeah, this was in my mind when we first started under this administration, but unfortunately, the logistics and, Erica, we were part of that cesspool conversion group and we talked about it as well. It's just having to be able to lead it and get it done. I think that's what the challenge is. But I mean, there's so many ideas out there. Even if you call it clean water beneficial use bill, something that you could connect it to, the water, because it's major resource, and the ocean as well. So.
Lee gets a question. Go.
Not a question.
Oh, comment.
Comment.
Good.
I was gonna say, we're being inundated with fees and nobody wants to pay additional fee, doesn't matter what you call it. You're gonna get a lot of fight and blowback over this. I've already talked to, earlier, we had talked about this and I had talked to some people that, I felt were strongly for the environment. And I asked them about, and they said, no, I moved here because I don't want to pay sewer fees. They have a septic system. They don't want to pay a fee to the county. So, I mean, if people really want to support such a thing, I think it would be better for the county, when you pay your property taxes, have a little checkbox that says donation, and you can fill in how much extra you want to pay, and it goes towards whatever you're going to use that for, rather than saying, forcing people to pay more money when we're probably one of the, well, except for Molokai, one of the poorest islands in the state.
I mean, that's a great suggestion. And that's where you guys come to play. Please, please, please make sure that you guys always keeping an eye of deferred maintenance, because unfortunately, Lee, I'm afraid if we keep kicking the can down the road, it's going to cost us billions and billions more. Your kids and grandkids are going to pay for it. And I'm afraid this county is probably going to be the highest county. If we don't keep being proactive, we have to stay proactive, and we cannot defer maintenance. We need to learn. Look at Hilo. We need to learn from it.
Jim Beats.
I'm actually going to withdraw that.
Okay, he's withdrawing. I'm gonna close this discussion. I said part of what I was hoping we'd do for this meeting is just start teeing up. What are the things we're gonna try and tackle next year? You are going to try and tackle this year, next year, brother. And I think it's that, gotta get out of the old boxes and think about what are we really trying to protect and how are we going to do it, and know that at least in the next 4 years, we're not getting federal money to do it. So how are we going to protect our INA in the water? So if you want, I'll try and think of it, because I think I am chairing the next meeting in January until you vote for a new chair. Put it on the agenda as an idea to further explore, and it may be, a pig candidate to look at. How do we structure this? So, do I have any other continuing business? No, unfinished business. New business, walk us right into it, is possible policy recommendations for 2025, whether it's ideas for legislation that has to wait for the next cycle because that recommendation has gone in from council, county ordinances, or other changes in how we do our thing. And I think, obviously the whole funding issue is never ending. For what do we want to do? But if any of you had some thoughts I'm always full of thoughts if you really want me to go through mine, but I want to hear from you guys. So what would you like to tee up for next year? Yes, Erica.
I have one off the top of my head that I mentioned, I believe last month during our meeting, but I just wanted to call out a section of the Integrated Climate Action Plan. It does have a wastewater focus, and this is the ICAP is the intention is the reduction of greenhouse gases. But section 3D3 1A of the ICAP specifically focuses on the need for reuse and water security for wastewater systems. And so just from the last conversation that we had, there were some maybe opportunities for growth that we could start to tackle in combining and looking at not just the wastewater DEM plans, but actually look at other county plans that are trying to tackle wastewater and have specific recommendations like the ICAP that still fit within the sphere of wastewater.
Totally. I agree. That's a good one. I mean, on that same, I'm sorry, Chair, can I be recognized?
Yes, you can be Rick.
Nice.
Laura Casio is going.
She was giving thumbs up. Or,
So I just saw the thumbs up.
On that note, we could probably dive into that ICAP and look on solid waste recommendations too. That would be pertinent. I am, yeah, as I go through that myself, reading it myself once again, 124 pages, it's a perfect opportunity to kind of segue and tie in the work that we've been doing this year as we get more, you know, I still consider myself a newer member on this, you know, commission, even though we've been here almost at least a year, if not more, but still learning the function and how we can continue to contribute. So I think that ICAP is something to look at for our commission.
I don't know if Sinclair wants to pipe in on that. Either our charter is to advise the council as well as DEM on issues around the management of solid waste and wastewater. So insofar as other plans, organizations within the county are dealing with those issues, I think it's within our purview. Also, I believe, and Ramsey, you could correct me, DEM had input on those plans and basically filled in those sections with their priorities. Is that true, Ramsey?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He left, okay.
They're also needed to, I mean, DEM, the ICAP is the plan that multiple divisions of the county will play out. So it's not, it's, you know, it's a plan for county divisions. So any of the wastewater efforts within that plan would be tackled by DEM.
I mean, I think there's congruence. What I'm doing is sending Sinclair messages that I think it's within the purview of the EMC because it's closely and related to what DEM is planning to do, will be executing on behalf of the county. And it deals with the subject matters that are the responsibility of this commission. Did I give you enough time to think, Sinclair?
You know, I think I heard enough. I think, I mean, I think, and also I think, like I said, you know, you guys have discretion to interpret your rules or your authority, and it looks like everybody's in agreement. So I don't think anything's needed from me.
Okay, thank you, Sinclair. Dot.
Hi, just a quick comment on Dee's suggestion. I feel that there's a lot of innovations that are being done to ensure that water quality is good for recycling. And maybe as a commission, we could investigate some of those possibilities.
Good one, good one. Okay. So you're talking in terms of new tech that's out there?
Yeah, new tests and new innovations in water recycling.
Anybody else in terms of topic areas or ideas you'd like to explore for next year? Jim Beats.
Yes, but it's not a new one.
Okay, same old one, that's fine.
So, I think we need probably the next meeting or the following to do a pretty thorough deep dive on the document that we received this, for this meeting. The
wastewater bill you're talking about?
and have a defined discussion period on this, maybe even required homework.
No.
But there's a lot to cover in this, and I have more questions than I could possibly have answered today. So I think a discussion period for one of the next two meetings would be important and also valuable.
Can I pipe in here? If you guys don't mind.
Please do,
Yes,
Chris.
please.
Yeah, sorry. So to address Jim, one of the neat things with Georgine, I have some email correspondence. If you have questions or concerns that you would like addressed with respect to the bill, if we could funnel those through Georgine, I mean, I do respond to those. And they will go into our log and they will have a response of some sort. So,
yes, and Chris, I appreciate that. I think what I'm actually requesting is more discussion among the commissioners on this, though.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's fine. If you have specific detailed questions, you can go straight to Chris. You don't have to use me as a secretary and just say, what is it? I don't understand this definition or whatever it is. And he can explain that, and you'll throw back a lot of, it's in the EPA regs. There's not much we can do about that, but that's okay. That's an answer. If you want for discussion purposes, I agree. I mean, I was hoping people had done their homework already, but they didn't. So, okay. Next time in January, you got all Christmas vacation to read this lovely bill. So yeah, I can put that on the agenda since I'm still in control of the agenda.
I agree with Jim too, and also when I looked over it, although I didn't read all of it. My question always is, who proposed this and what was the reasoning behind these proposals? Because it's one thing to read things as if they're going to be almost finalized. This is what it's going to be. But I wouldn't know what brought it up to this.
It's,
I kind of want
if I may, Chris, it's a two-parter. One is under the AOC. We should have had pretreatment rules before for decades now, and didn't. So we need to have pretreatment covered. That's one big chunk, and a lot of the detailed language and going, ugh. Yeah. And then there's, and as we're changing the code, let's tweak this and we'll add this and we'll add that. So there's some optional stuff, if you will, that deals with the wastewater division wish list. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, so the pretreatment program came out with the Clean Water Act federally back in the early 80s. So a lot of 4 treatment plants that discharge over 5 MGD. So, Hilo is NPDES permitted, and it's permitted for up to 5 MGD. So therefore, under the original pretreatment rules, it should have been, the program should have been developed back in the mid-80s, but it wasn't. So, and for whatever reason, who knows? But so when I'm doing, it's interesting. So when I do research to understand what other people are doing, what other jurisdictions are doing, the only other pretreatment program I have to look at in the state is City and County of Honolulu. So, and I want a larger sample size because I want to understand, what some of the other challenges other jurisdictions have. I mean, that to me, that's how that's what I can do. So when I go to other programs, I get these typewritten documents from the mid 80s or the early 90s. And so a lot of this is driven by the federal regulations. Some of it, the county does have jurisdictions. We can kind of change a few things. But the majority of the language in the rule is required. That's what we need to do according to the Clean Water Act. So that's what brought on the pretreatment part. Then the fog components, again, that we're trying to get ahead of our MPDS permit requirements and implement it equally throughout the entire island. And then as far as, we need to preserve our existing code in some components and change and modify some other things to comply with other enforcement orders. So I'm sensing that an annotated version is likely going to be requested in the future.
Yes, that's what,
Yes.
that was my question. That would
Yeah,
help, that
okay.
would help.
I kind of thought, okay. So,
Thank you.
yep,
Jim Beats has a question, comment?
sure.
Yeah, so just following up on Dale, maybe helping clarify too. So Jim Beats District 1. Chris, what I'm assuming, and because from what I've been listening to over the past year, Ramsey, yourself, many others within your division have been accumulating components of revisions to this for probably years, correct?
Yeah, more or less, there are bits and pieces for revisions. But the main driver in this case was the pretreatment and fog programs.
Because some of the things that Ramsey had mentioned in previous meetings, he said, well, this will be addressed within this document. And I'm assuming, and some of them weren't, or maybe revised. And I'm assuming that is because you had internal discussions and decided what we have in this present draft is the final decision with, internal, I guess, right? From the work that all of you have done there and made a final decision of what goes into this draft, correct?
Well, yes, we've made a decision on what to put into the draft. However, we're at the point where we're now seeking public consultation and
Right.
the public's input. So some things I'm, and I mean, ultimately, council can, at their will and call can, red line, cross things out, that's fine. But right, my job as division chief is to identify, hey, if you redline that, we're out of federal compliance. And
I may have
know.
misunderstood, Chris. I thought this would have already gone to council for review.
no,
It has not.
so
You're still in the loop.
We're the
Yeah,
draft.
so-
Okay, okay. No, I understood this was the draft.
yeah,
I assume there would be some consultation on this.
yeah,
council.
so this is, this is a rather, large step in terms of our code. So I really want to invite the public discussion, the consultation. And so, you guys are our first outlet. And I would anticipate that once we get into council, there will be many more public discussions. So I just, again, we're not trying to, we want to be transparent, and we also
Understood.
want,
Now,
so,
this is not penultimate. Don't worry about it.
oh yeah.
You're gonna
No,
have
no,
other
no, I
ones.
understood
But
that. You know
understand-
what, I just assumed that it had been reviewed, by a council within the department.
First
So
step.
no,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
It's
So
good.
some of this may not even pass review of legal. Is that correct?
Well, I
It'd
would
be more
say,
DOH that would be the striker.
Okay,
Department of Health.
that clarifies it for me.
Laura?
Okay, Laura, District 2, this is a question related to, so if we have a measure on the state level, I'm more familiar with that. So the format is we show the strike through of the current chapter, in this case, chapter 21. How much of this, it's in a different format, right? You can't see what's still in the current chapter versus what's changed.
so the
Move
changes are going to
around.
be rather significant. So
Okay.
we're going to do a remove and replace.
Okay, but in terms of like my knowledge, to go to the current, and I would have to compare how much of this is, you're saying it's like maybe significant, 80% is new?
I would say yes, because,
Okay,
right,
because we didn't really have one in that sense,
Right.
because of what you just mentioned about 1980s, et cetera.
yeah, there were
Okay.
no,
I got it.
Components of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the
But we
clarification.
did have a previous chapter.
We did,
So there is a current chapter of
Right.
21,
which is correct.
but it's
Oh,
messier than I'll get out to try. I've tried it
yeah.
to map it, and I'm not sure it'd be helpful for you.
I did too. I've got the.
The compare and
printed
that's what I'm
copy.
saying, like
Right.
the format is very easy when you just simply see the strike through
Mhm.
as opposed to,
No,
and the
I
new
agree.
additions, as opposed to trying to sit by, read them both and compare and check off the pieces.
Erica,
So in the same idea that the count, like this is the kind of first showing of it, it also still has to go through EPA under the AOC, is that correct? So it's also gonna have to be reviewed and approved by the EPA.
Only the final.
well, a draft was actually already submitted to DOH for their comments. But yes, we could, this will be, it is publicly available to really anyone who wants to review. But yes, EPA will look at our pretreatment program. They'll look at our, rules, and they'll either say your program is compliant and we're happy with it, or they'll say that we don't have enough legal jurisdiction, which is required by the law.
It
So I
was
imagine it
just to
probably-
give you clarification, this was done under DOH AOC, so it's not a EPA. It's administrative order on consent by DOH, not EPA, so. So probably the
Thank you for the
likelihood EPA is
clarification.
not gonna review it because the authority falls within DOH.
Thank you, Ramsey.
And, another thing to just share with the team. So when I first started working on, the current draft version, I actually had a meeting with EPA's regulatory team within the pretreatment group and DOH's regulatory team within the pretreatment group. And I said, guys, what do you want to see in a program? What have you, in your experience and regulatory experience throughout the state, throughout, Division 9, or, what do you guys want to see? And we got some interesting feedback from them, from the perspective of the regulatory. And, so I really have tried to involve them in this process as well, so that, we don't have these, have hiccups or, misunderstanding with our agencies in the future. So.
Additionally, Chris, the EPA does have a draft ordinance on their website for their pre-treatment education program. So I believe that's where the drafting of the ordinance started, you know, even before you came on board.
Okay, definitely wastewater review will be on priority list for the rest of our lives, but for next year. And I want you to maybe start thinking about, are there some, like you said, deep dives? We need to get a pig set up, work it. It's something that's very difficult to do within a general meeting like this. And it's very, very detailed. You really have to kind of diagram things out. Del, you had a comment?
The priorities from next year.
Yeah.
We can look into staffing. I know,
Staffing, it's on the agenda today, but we're running out of time. And I'm going to suggest we postpone that. But yeah, staffing continues. You know, how does you know, funding limited organization go into the 22nd century to try and figure out how we get things done without people. We're gonna buy a bunch of robots. So yeah, if you'll allow me, I'm taking prerogative to, unfortunately, one more time, push that discussion off to next meeting. But back to priority areas. My personal mission for the last 4 years, 5 years, has been to push that integrated solid waste management plan priorities. And I am sincerely hoping that there'll be somebody as obsessed with waste as I was, to continue the focus there. There are priorities that need to be done. There are ideas we're working on. And I'll report a little bit about that of my future life and what I'm going to be doing. So that's the other part of what EMC is about. And I think there's some interesting opportunities that the commission should be looking at. And I can't read it. You need to get a new pen. Asking for a break. Okay, let's take a break. Then we'll come back and we will hear from the director and crew on reports and correspondence. So take 5. Thank you. Okay, we are back online. Jim Beats will be joining us shortly. And Eric is here, but out of view of the camera. So there was one more point that Laura Cassia wanted to make on priorities for next year.
Yeah, and it was kind of adding on to your integrated solid waste management as a priority, getting back to construction and, well, landfill diversion, which is, I think, what you were referring to, but specifically stating landfill diversion efforts countywide, specifically construction and demolition waste, fast-moving consumer goods as well. I know they're very different pots of things, but what we're working on in terms of that, and yeah, that should cover it. But there's more, but specifically construction, demolition, and fast-moving consumer goods. Okay. All right, so Ramsey, you want to run through your last director's informational report?
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think you guys are gonna leave you with good hands. Our staff are really doing great, and like I said, kudos to all of them. Between the solid waste and wastewater, they did work very hard over the last 4 years to kind of implement the vision. And I think we just need to stay the course to be able to recoup, recover, and maintain, because it's very, very important. And, we have still a lot of work ahead of us. The wastewater, as you all know, it's amazing what we were able to do with Hilo project is going to be awarded, like what the mayor said. We send a letter intent of award already to the contractor, so that's hopefully it moves forward. Big projects. Chris will give update on the project that in the hopper for design. As I mentioned, we should be able to share with you the 10-year forecast as well. So you guys should have that to be able to look at it, advise, and monitor, because we've broken it down to every fiscal year and the anticipated expenditure for every fiscal year and the projected projects that were going to be performed within this particular fiscal year spread over 2035, because that's the date of the AOC. And, it's a good tool. Kelly and staff also will have the master schedule and the milestones that we need to deliver on based on the current AOCs. As you all know, we have 6 of them. We need to stay the course. We cannot afford as a county to go into consent decree. Consent decree is the biggest hammer any county could have. So my recommendation to all of you and the new administration, stay the course. Don't put the county in a consent decree type of phase mood, because our taxpayers will suffer severely. Solid waste, we still have a lot of work. Unfortunately, the position that we offered to the chief, he just sent us a letter declining the position just 2 days ago. So I forwarded that letter to our human resource. He decided to stay in Florida. He could have been a great asset to our solid waste. He comes in with 3rd generation in the solid waste business. He's certified in recycling. He's certified in composting. He carries so many certifications. I was looking forward to having him on board. He ranked #1 on the interview. We only had 2 people. So the position now is going to go back out to recruitment. I encourage, as I always do, anybody that feels they qualified, please take the opportunity to apply for these positions within the department. I know our department, we still very short staff. We got 38% vacancies. We don't have HR. Our HR people that they come in, they last 3 months, 6 months, and they come to my office, say, sorry, Ramsey, I have to resign. I cannot handle all that work. Nobody could handle that work. So hopefully the new administration could work with the Department of Human Resource to restructure. We cannot function based on the early 1950 or 1960s. Things have changed. We've grown. Technology have changed. Businesses have changed. We need to restructure. So I submitted a restructure organizational chart that we've been working on for the last 2.5 years, and we submitted a draft to EPA, and we submitted a draft to the Department of Human Resource. We have to restructure our department to succeed, and we have to get the HR support that we need to succeed. We cannot function with no succession planning and no redundancy. And I think that's what has been missing. one section cannot be led by one person. Because if that one person goes on sick leave or vacation, everything stops. And I think, like I said, with the reorg that we established, hopefully could allow for more better organization structure, and hopefully Kelly could share that with you guys the next meeting.
We actually got that in our
Oh, you guys
last
got it?
meeting package.
Amazing.
And I
Okay,
would
good.
encourage you to, if you didn't spot that page, go
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good rational redistribution, focusing on what functionality you need to have in each group. So I wish you the best, or whoever next year, the best in accomplishing that. So.
And you guys, as a commission, you could also continue giving the advice and the guidance. Otherwise, if we continue the status quo, my gut feeling will be exposed to failure. I fought hard, but I hope the next administration even fight harder. To be
Well, there
able
might
to-
be a few US EPA people looking for jobs, I heard.
Well, it's really not the recruitment, because we have not even got to recruitment. Our roadblocks was into just having the right structure to be able to perform our HR needs. And unfortunately, there's HRS laws that only allow each department to have one HR person, which is outrageous when you have 300 employees and 90% of most managers and supervisor time is spent on employee issues. And you only have one HR person for each department. That's insane. It doesn't allow for succession planning. It doesn't allow for redundancy. So unfortunately, I've been fighting for that for 2.5 years. We still had a meeting with DHR just last month, and it was also rejected. But I hope the new administration would come in, either keep the fight for bringing a better HR structure for each department. At least our department needs it badly. Because I literally took it upon myself for the last 3 months or more, just writing allocation form for these positions. I've taken them over the weekend just to try to fill in the gaps to be able to fill vacancies. But that's where the bottleneck, that's where we need the improvement. Unfortunately, like I told you earlier, when I came in here, I had no idea of what I was getting into. But despite all of these challenges, we were able to deliver and stayed focused. Our department depends on planning department to tell them what capital improvement project you could do. It depends on Department of Human Resource to tell you what SR level you could hire and not hire, and who you could hire and not hire. And the finance department controls if you want to do enterprise or not. So with these major parameter for a department to succeed, and if they all under the control of somebody else's, you doomed to fail. But unfortunately, something's going to give, something's going to take. We fought very hard. And I'm proud to tell you that I'm going to leave with legacy. I heard it from all staff members, the appreciation they gave us under this administration. Me and Brenda and Peter fought so hard. They never had equipment. Look at the cat we just bought. 30 years without a trash compactor. How could you function? How could you, it's very simple analysis of, lifespan gain versus the $2 million you're going to spend. You're going to get the ROI within a year. No brainer. But it took me 2.5 years to fight for it, but finally we got it. We fought for staff, we got staff. We fought for the Hilo waste treatment plant. We designed it twice within a short period of time. That's a, huge project. We were able to get it out twice in a short time. Strategically, we laid it out to the benefit of and the interest of the county, and it was a success. Now we have a big project, the biggest project in the county's history. To me, that's a legacy, because you building something that you're going to protect the health and safety of the others. And hopefully we could start paying attention to our shoreline and start protecting our drinking water, because it's so important. These are major resources to the island. And I don't understand why would somebody not do that. So I hope and I pray that continues. Otherwise, I don't want to go back 30 years in the county's history for the same predicament. I hope you guys stand up, continue pushing what we need to push to become environmentally perfect INA. And I'm also proud to tell you that our county now, it's ahead of the other counties in the state. We were able to deliver on the integrated wastewater management plan, this countywide cesspool conversion plan, and we're working on the facility planning for every facility we have. We're working on the operation manuals that for every facility, so our staff could succeed and excel and deliver. The county needs it, and I think right now I could leave by telling you we are in a perfect condition, and it's where we sit today. It's just a matter of just following the roadmap, following the vision. I've been in this business for 40 years, between solid waste and wastewater. So, if we want to get into the right direction, we have to keep pushing. Otherwise, your kids, your grandkids, it's not going to be able to afford living in this county because of taxes. If you get consent decree, you're going to be forced to raise your taxes. And that adds up to about 200%. We did the numbers. So that's going to force people to leave. So we need to get ahead of it. And we need to be very, very proactive with Department of Health, EPA, creative solutions that could reduce our constituents' costs so we could maintain living here with affordability. So what, I keep saying it, let's learn from Hilo. Had we spent $2 million every year to maintain it for the last 30 years, that's $60 million. These type of facilities are built to last 50 years. Hilo only lasted us 30 years. So I hope and I pray my staff here are listening as we move forward. Just you guys need to continue the fight because it eventually is going to cost more. With that said, hopefully, I'm going to branch out on my own. I'm starting EnviroSwell engineering solution. So hopefully I could continue my environmental services to the state because I think it's badly needed. And hopefully we could make our state compliant and exit out of these bad practices because we need to get in the 21st century.
No, again, as I said to Mitch Roth, that you guys have set a foundation for moving forward that's going to make us much better. Thoroughly agree with the focus you've had on operations and maintenance and giving us that fresh start and accomplishing it in an incredible amount of time, especially given the lack of resources you've had. You guys have been innovative. You've made some incredible agreements with EPA that I never thought you'd be able to do. So I can't say enough. I think you've done a fabulous job. And I think it does, as I'm leaving the EMC, we need to push for implementation. There's really solid planning work with Sarah, guideline for where we need to go, how we need to do it. We've got to make sure it gets resourced and accomplished. And I think we've got the capability to do that with EMC, and hopefully we'll see how council goes next year, but get this county, we are an example to others on how you can get it done. And really appreciate having worked with you, Ramsey, and hope that we have a chance to work together even still after. So thank you. And thank you to your staff for hanging in there. And I hope that we continue to let the powers that be understand that you've got some really quality people there and knowledgeable, and they need support. So thank you. Mahalo nui.
Thank you.
Are you joining us for lunch?
I wish I could do it virtual. I was there in Gila yesterday. Today I'm in Kona, but I know Brenda probably gonna join you guys, and I really appreciate each one of you for being candid. And my apology if sometimes I came kind of loud or just try to interrupt to give the right information. Like I said, sometimes I get very passionate over the topics because really environmental issues goes deep in my heart. And once again, thank you all for keeping us on track, keeping us aligned to that vision, and keep placing the pressure, because each one of you carry a major role in the guidance and advice of how to shape our environmental issues, from solid waste to abandoned vehicles to wastewater. And you guys, each one of you played a major role. And I hope you guys continue pushing, ask tough questions, and accountability is very important, because we work for the taxpayers. We carry a major burden to make sure that we protect their health and safety, and also we manage their fund in a manner that we manage ours. Because you cannot just have an open check and just do what you please to do, because eventually everybody's going to pay for it. And we all live here are going to pay for it. So just keep that in mind and keep going. And ditto to my staff again. Kudos, staff, you guys have done a great job. I thank each one of you for your patience, for your delivery and commitment and dedication. You guys are awesome. And once again, my apology to staff if I came very pushy, try to get things out. But I learned the hard way. I raised 3 valedictorian. I keep talking about this because it really get into my nerve. When you raise 3 valedictorian, then you get very proud of it. And they always tell me, Dad, you worse, than a Chinese man, because A is not good enough for you. A plus is is good enough. So I have high standards. Chris, Craig, Mike, if you guys listening, Shalise, Kelly, my apology if I was pushing so hard, because failure is not in my blood. So, and you guys delivered, and thank you all for everything that you guys have done. Great accomplishment. I hope you guys continue doing it. And I hope the new administration come and give you the same support and excitement. And I hope the new organization take place so you guys have mobility, because we need to build that succession planning. We need to build that ladder movement. And you guys are great, and you guys deserve each step all the way. Thank you.
Yep. Getting lots of nods here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ramsey. We will see you around. Ahoy ho. I hope. And even those of us who are leaving the commission, I think, we care about our community and won't be quiet, right? Lee?
Especially if fees are implemented.
I challenge you. No.
We'll work it out. We'll use your example, Ramsey, on passion and energy and focus on getting to your goals. Has been fabulous. And thank you. So with that, are there some things you want us to take off for vacation time to make sure we know what's going on? We want to jump to the questions. Are there things we haven't covered yet in the director's report?
I think since I have staff here, I'd love for them to just give you an update. I got Kelly, Chris, Craig, and Shalise. So if you don't mind, they just go through each one of them just to give you quick updates.
That would be great. Thank you. So solid waste up first?
Yeah, we could go solid waste.
Hello, hi, this is Shalise. Can you all hear me okay? I'm at the construction site.
Yes. Yes, we have a fabulous.
Perfect. Okay, so we did receive the next version of the solid waste system operational analysis on yesterday. They submitted it to Acting Chief Mike Kaha. He's distributed it to us. We have not had a chance to review anything yet. And he's going to be sitting down with the new administration to confirm our next steps with the analysis. So we did receive that as scheduled. So I just wanted to provide that information to you from the chief.
Okay, great. Know that we as EMC are beyond eager to have an opportunity to read through it, see what's worth focusing on for this next year, and be as supportive as we can with the new administration.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll be sure to relay that as well.
Yeah, so no real updates for recycling. We're currently working on and finalizing the dates for the next 4 household hazardous waste events in February and March. And we are hoping to have another tire collection event on the in Kona. And then most importantly, I wanted to say thank you to Ramsey, Brenda, Georgine for your leadership and guidance, and to Peter for all his hard work that's done behind the scenes.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Without you guys, we won't be here. So thank you.
Wastewater, we've overwhelmed Chris with meeting time. Not sure if you've got anything left to let us know. Is he still there?
I think he put in the chat that he had to leave.
Okay, well, that I think we probably got what we needed on the fabulous progress on wastewater. And just again, kudos. It's a very complicated, interrelated set of issues to work on, and we the EMC will continue with their challenge to try and offer useful input. When we beat the staff vacancies, again, I'll bring back the point. If they're do a Ramsey, get your innovative, creative thoughts. Maybe I'll get the guy who wrote a whack on the side of the head, how to get creative and what to do with the never-ending staffing challenges with the department, which are not within DEM's control. There are a lot of reasons why you can't get people to come here on the island tour. There were some questions. One was dealing with, unless you heard some information, we heard or read about in the paper an R&D request for proposal. I had a copy, or I saw one of multiple RFPs that R&D just put out, but that didn't seem to be exactly on the waste to energy issue. So do you know anything, Ramsey, about what R&D's up to relative to, and I think Roth even alluded to taking waste from the treatment plants and doing something with it energy wise. I just, if you know anything.
I could
Yeah,
speak
this
to that.
concept we've been working on for a while. Try to be creative enough to extract hydrogen out of the wastewater. Technology has improved lately where it could allow to extract hydrogen from wastewater. So I think Riley's working on that. We also have been working on trying to create soil by mixing mulch with our biosolid and effluent. The PFAS, unfortunately now, is being introduced and everybody is kind of on a hold mood trying to figure out if you stop mixing, how's the impact? And we probably gonna get to a situation where probably will be asked to start treating and removing the contaminant, because we try to reach out to the Department of Health. It's so ironic, you got two entities, the wastewater Department of Health versus the solid waste Department of Health. The wastewater encourages recycling, and the solid waste, now they tell you cannot use it because the PFAS coming in and it may create problems. So now we need to navigate through that from regulatory point of view, so we could these people talking to each other and figure out really how we're going to tackle this a new thing that right now everybody's talking about. So I think it's worthwhile to continue working with R&D because Riley's doing a good job with the research that he's doing and trying to capture some of our resources, if it's the biosolids from digester, or is it the mulch, or is it the effluent that we're going to start treating to be able to reuse rather than discharge. So, it's it's a challenge, and it seemed like every year something else come in as a contaminant and redirect the thinking. So we just need to get ahead of it, and we need to be in sync with other entities. I understand there's a lot of researchers of trying to treat it. Some of the universities already start doing the studies and laboratory testing just to see where they at on the removal. So hopefully, like I said, we stay connected.
Okay,
Can I add to that?
oh, Erica has a question.
I just more so have a comment in that, you know, I'm so excited, Ramsey, that you are gonna continue your passion and drive within this space as a private sector. And I think, you know, just of all the conversations that I know you and I have been in the rooms about breaking silos and trying to have department, not only interdepartment conversations, but then also just between divisions and private sector and public sector. But I just really hope that you're able to share your mana'o and continue kind of navigating that space and the challenges around it in getting those silos broke, because I think it is the most critical thing in advancing our work and making sure that, you know, our future environment as well as our communities are safeguarded. And you having a very unique position of being on all sides of that work is it's going to be a lot of insight. And I think that it will be really great to have you still within this space. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Erica. Yes, I would love, you know me, you and I go way back when we started that. So yes, I'd love to continue working with all of you outside to the state level. I know we have conversation with the state recently and other counties. So definitely, even the university is going to end up tapping into our, you know, studies that we done to use it as an example for the entire state, from prioritization of cesspool conversions. We are ahead of everybody in the state. So the University of on Oahu is going to take that and implement it statewide. So it's a good thing. I'm going to continue being involved. I hope we get the entire state on the right direction. And when I first came in here through the city and county to kind of look at their issue and work with the state, it was a pleasure, it was success. And I got the opportunity to get the attention on the county of Hawaii, and through them pushing me to come here and fix the challenges. And I, like I said, I didn't know what I was gonna get into, but I think I thank everybody in the state that did the recommendation, because it was a thrill, it was an experience. But I could, like I said, look back and say I succeeded on laying out the ground and getting the most important facility that needs care out there to construction.
Chair.
Laura, mine's very quick. I just would like the words of Commissioner Perez inserted into the record as if they were my own. Thank you. Thanks for your service, Ramsey. See you
Thank you
around.
so much. Thank you. I appreciate you too, Laura. You
And
know,
the rest.
you're at
rest
the
of the-
Senate position. You and Christy, you guys kept me intact. I mean, I'd love just, like I said, working with every one of you.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, thank
accomplished,
you.
hopefully, if you go back to the Senate, try to push some of these bills. You got
Yeah.
our support. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, back to agenda questions. And this one was yours, actually, Laura, on a recommendation perhaps that you made regarding Malama One recycling plant. Ramsey, Director, do you have any input on what's happening with that or where that is at?
I'm sorry, which item?
For item B, so just any information on developments for recycling plant?
Recycling plan, I got Craig online too, so hopefully, the best thing to do recycling and diversion is to do a dirty MRF. I don't know if you guys know what a dirty MRF. Dirty MRF.
Specifically, the question was about Malama One or Malama One, however he wants to pronounce it, getting PET bottles for a recycling plant.
That, I don't know where the status on that. Craig, do you have any idea?
Yeah, there's no update, but we could probably find out.
Well, I will try again. I wasn't able to connect with Nick Doyle to get a response on that, but I'll hold it for try for next time.
Okay. Did the department write a letter of recommendation for any site preferences that they were looking at that you know of, or what was the involvement with the department thus far?
I think they worked with R&D, and I think we gave them some recommendation, if I recall, it was last year. Through R&D. But since then, I don't know where they at, like I said, unless our recycling section knows more.
Yeah, what was the then? I'm curious.
It was last year when we issued a letter when they first started, I think.
And what was the letter for?
Just recommendation of their business to recycle.
Okay, next one was yours, Lee. Dealing with tobacco.
Yeah, is the department considering expanding the prohibition on tobacco from just smoking to other uses like vaping and stuff? I was told that that's not covered under the current rules.
I don't know if it's smoking under DEM. That probably need to go to the administration.
Okay.
Did you find it in the code?
No, I was just asking Peter about it. He was sending me some information.
Okay. You also have D on the scrap metal.
Yeah, did y'all ever get a response from the vendor about accepting metal car parts, vehicle parts?
Yeah, no, we haven't really spoken to the scrap metal, but I think the issue is the liquids. So we want to make sure that the language on our site is correct, where we can accept car doors, hoods and stuff. But yeah, that's a discussion with scrap metal.
Okay, and then last on the list was material safety data sheets for the CIPP. I didn't see them in the packet. I guess I'll send a note off to Chris and see if we can actually get a copy of those MSDS. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be good because I think they just trying to put up emergency project to do a CIPP, so maybe perfect timing.
Okay. I mean, they're probably in a drawer someplace. The last item under this section is me reporting on the work of the Sustainability Summit Solid Waste Reduction Work Group. We really need to catch your name. there is a small group of us who have been acting as a steering committee, if you will. We're focused on, excuse me, trying to come up with a design and figure out where we get the money and the site and all that good stuff for a resource recovery park, which would not have a dirty MRF, but a mini MRF that would take fairly clean stream, recyclable material and send it off to users. But it would have a steady stream of commercial reusables and some of the recycling perhaps. But the idea would be to have a park focused maybe near or at a transfer station, but that would allow the opportunity to bring a growing number of materials, hopefully, to a central location that would bundle it up for commercial use, either at the site, because at this site we've got the idea of having some entrepreneurial space, which is sorely lacking here, of just having a weatherproof warehouse, if you will, to do stuff, whether it's a fix-it shop or it's taking off good parts from electronic equipment or whatever, educational spaces, a bigger, better reuse store. And we're coming up with the concepts of what would be included in this resource park, but the idea that it would not be a waste site, it would be a resource recovery site. The second area is that I'm working lead on is following through with the bill to ban the landfill of recyclable materials that have a place to go, maybe even a resource recovery park that could be collected, or that we know has an outlet for people other than a ditch someplace. I am going to be meeting with Heather Kimball and Jen Kagiwara in January before the next meeting, so I'll tell you what came of that. But taking that draft that I had done and that you guys said, oh, this is an idea, so we sent it to the council. So this is the follow-up to see, well, what would we do to turn it into an actual county ordinance, focused again on the county, not the state, and not a broader EPR product ban, but really focused on extending the lifetime of our one and only landfill. So I'm working that. We think we've found someone interested in heading up the third area that we had identified as priority for focus, and that's composting, and looking at how can we find someone to drive, looking at a distributed composting setup for this island. There's a lot of complicated parts to deal with it, and we hadn't had someone who could really focus on it right now. So that's she's doing her homework, trying to see if she really wants to do this. But it's also an opportunity. Unfortunately, we haven't had focus here in EMC on composting. We identified it as an issue, but certainly within the integrated solid waste management plan. I hope that one of our previous commissioners had been able to take the lead on that. So it's an opportunity. Certainly, you want to do compost?
No.
Push compost. It is a role that I think EMC needs to have some focus on. It's a lot of demand by just the general populace, but also commercial organizations that can't give it all to pigs and need some other outlet. It's a wasted resource that we need to figure out how to deal with, and perhaps would be cleaner than the poop coming out of wastewater treatment plants. So
Food waste, you mean?
food waste.
We're talking about more food waste than.
Than green waste. Green waste, Craig, we're doing pretty good on the green waste. We could do better in having more outlets for collection.
Yeah.
But food waste is also huge, and paper and all the other things that are organic that can indeed be turned into a valuable compost product. Yes, Del.
Given that on the compost, HER had that contract, right? It was a two-phase with the company.
They have, yeah.
So I'm just saying, you know,
It's on the list for next year's focus. And somehow we've got to get over Corporation Council telling us, no, you can't touch it because it's a contract. You deal with that next year. But this Hui that we've got, kind of these three sections, it's just a random bunch of people who have, some have commercial interests, some have just spare time because they're retired, others who are passionate about it or involved with NGOs. So we're trying to be this follow-up to the Sustainability Summit, see if we can get some energy to flesh out some ideas, bring people together, and come up with some solid proposals that could be brought to the EMC, to DEM, to the council. So we're trying to bring order to the brainstorms.
There are some folks, sorry,
Erica.
thank you. There are some folks in Kona that could be great in possibly coming and presenting to the commission, or have you done that already?
you.
This is, I was gonna say, I'm outdated, so this is, exactly, yeah, perfect, never mind, I'll be quiet.
No,
then.
there are lots of bits and pieces going on in the island, and one of the challenges, we've got Oscar, Bethany, Morrison involved with, how do you bring all the bits and pieces together to come up with some solid plans and
Well, to
vision
scale
for
it really,
yeah,
right?
so that's what we're trying to do, is this little sidebar Hui.
So just clarification, so Oscar is represented on the waste reduction working group, and is there a way or a place to access just who's on that? Because that might inform the question that
we have people who have
Erica.
volunteered and mailing lists that we're kind of keeping track, and it's fluid, it's unofficial.
Got it.
It's not sanctioned by anybody.
Got it.
So we've got some council members who are interested, some business people who are interested.
Yeah, you're taking notes.
So
And
we have notes if you want to see the notes, but it's pretty dang loosey-goosey.
And I'm sorry, Chair, you joined this as chair of EMC, and like,
I have the hat. I will
You
shortly be losing the hat.
Yeah.
And it's me.
of course, yeah,
like all of us.
yeah, you insert yourself, right, right.
So I mean, I have communicated what EMC has done,
Nice.
but I'm not speaking on behalf of EMC at these meetings, other than I'll bring doing what I'm doing right now, telling you some of the stuff we've been dealing with. The reusable foodware thing that Jennifer Navarro's doing. We've had her present to us, and she's chugging along doing her thing. So there are all these, like I said, there are bits and pieces and people who are doing the construction paper, and they're turning it into mulch cover. Oh, that's great. Let's do that. Yeah, where? They've got no space. They've got no money. So we're trying to mold something.
That's great.
You can ask.
Would it be possible for, as you are also unfortunately departing the EMC, would it be possible for you to jot down some of those things that maybe we don't see directly, but that you are gathering information that is good information for EMC to at least keep track of? And because you now are unfortunately departing, that maybe the next chair might be able to have capacity to kind of pick up and at least keep a note on it, or an idea of like what's happening out there in the ethos.
Come give testimony.
I mean, if I come up with something that I think would be really good for EMC I will be in touch.
Excellent.
Guaranteed.
I love it.
I mean, it's looking for where are the leverage points to move things.
But if there's anything that's glaring that, should be, that would be so valuable for us.
But also
at
include-
Georgetown.
You've had these pet things that you've been working on all these years that, maybe you can just give us a list and we can just
Keep it going for you.
Oh, and as far as the EMC and what I wish been able
other
to.
projects you wish you could have fulfilled that you didn't get.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to get you to think about it. And I will bring it for January meeting.
Great.
And we'll just make a list. You can send me your ideas. I'll add it to the list. I dug out that, remember when I had a list of your personal things you wanted to work on?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had your name against a couple of them too. Anyway.
I've forgotten what they are now, though.
I brought a copy you can look at. Anyway, so yes, I will keep you informed. I'm a little reluctant to show you all the kind of half-baked discussions. I mean, if you think the minutes from these meetings are crazy to do, we're using some app that Nick Risnick, who owns Hanaho Recycling, is in this little steering committee of us who are trying to get things moving. He's got some app that does the recordings and it's AI and it summarizes it. And I go, I didn't say anything like that. That's just the opposite of what I said. So it's been fun. Anyway, we're done with the reports and correspondence. I'll come back with all the things I wish I had done and hand it to whoever you nominate or choose to be chair, because chair and vice chair will be up at the January meeting and you'll vote on it and I'll shake their hand and say so
Condolences.
no, it's fun. I mean, I've really had a blast doing it, and we'll miss it. Future items. So if you've got ideas you want me to have on the agenda, I'll cook it up. He's not going to be around to help me though. So it'll be my crazy list of things. And I'll check through. There are a couple of items I already have that we'll do in that. So our next meeting is scheduled for January 29th. It'll be in Kona at the Civic Center. And you'll do the election of officers.
January
29th, right? All right. And I've pretty much been blathering throughout about my valedictory comments, so I won't go into any more than that, other than I'm strange. I've enjoyed being on EMC, and I've enjoyed and privileged to chair it. I hope I haven't driven you too crazy. I know I talk too much. I'm very opinionated.
We didn't notice.
But with a smile, I don't get too mad too often, but I encourage whoever of you would be interested. My very first meeting, VMC, they wanted to nominate me for the chair. And I said, I don't think that's right. So I waited a year before I accepted the chair. But anyway, you can make of it what you want and push things or not, or just be the nice facilitator for discussion. And you won't have Peter, so I don't know how you're going to cope with pulling together all the materials and the agenda and the minutes, but I'm sure they'll hire somebody who's wonderful.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, again, thank you. And I'll see you next time, and I'll say thank you again. So there. We need a motion for adjournment.
I motion.
Second.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dot. Sorry, you're not here. I'll catch you next time in Kona. I'll go to that meeting. It's close. So meeting adjourned.
Georgianne, I
Ramsey.
want to share something with you guys because I shared it with the staff. I wrote it down as I was driving to the office
Okay,
yesterday.
President,
as a
we're gonna stop
quorum.
the recording. Thank you very much.